News presents You Can Quote Me.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Darren Perrin. Right now on You Can Quote Me, oops, we did it again. Our not-so-finest moments on TV, the Channel 3 News bloopers from 2025 on the way. Also, tips to make your 2026 the best year yet, and helping homeless kids. He walked away from a high-paying job in New York City to work with homeless kids. Mark Redmond is the executive director at Spectrum Youth and Family Services, and he tells the tales of helping troubled youth and how they, in turn, help him, both on stage and in writing, like in his memoir, Called. Mark Redmond joins us now. Thank you so much for being here.
Darren, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, good to see you again. So, first walk us through how you made that decision to go from metropolitan life to working with kids on the street.
So I studied business administration at Villanova University, and I finished near the top of my class, and I landed a big job on Madison Avenue in a management training program. And someone told me about Covenant House in Times Square, which worked with homeless youth, and they said, oh, they need volunteers there. So I would go there every Tuesday night and hand out brownies and play basketball with the kids. And just doing that week after week, I began to realize, like, that's what I really wanted to be doing with my life. I remember being at a meeting with a senior executive at Metropolitan Life, and they were wonderful people, Darren. And he said, you know, we're now at, I don't know, what, 30 billion in assets, and by the end of the decade, we have to get to 60 billion in assets, and that's the goal you all need to dedicate yourselves to. And I remember thinking, I'm not saying that's wrong or immoral, but that's not what I want to dedicate myself to. I want to dedicate myself to helping young people who are homeless and on the streets. So I left, gave up the job, gave up the apartment on Park Avenue, and I moved across the street from a crack house and a strip club and started working for $12 a week helping homeless youth. That was in 1981, so 45 years ago.
And then you moved to Vermont, where you run Spectrum. How long ago was that?
23 years. So that was February of 2003, so 23 years ago. So you could divide my career almost exactly, New York City and Vermont.
All right, let's talk about your book. It's Called.
Yes.
In it, you talk about, these real-life experiences that you've had, befriending drug dealers, helping them turn their lives around, thousands of homeless kids whom you've helped over the years as well. But not all do. Not all are able to turn their lives around. What does it take for them to be successful in doing that?
There's a lot of reasons. You're right. Not every story turns out well, although I have a very nice story. There's a story in the book there. I got his permission. Young man who'd been at Spectrum. He'd been addicted to drugs, had overdosed. We helped him get clean. He went to college. He worked for us. So when I was writing the book, I said to him, can I have your permission? I'll change your name. So I wrote about this story. So when the book came out, I said, let's have coffee. I want to give you a copy of the book. And as soon as I saw him, I could see he looked terrible, terrible. And he said, Mark, I'm back into drugs. I live on Sears Lane in that homeless encampment. Every dollar I have goes to drugs. So I gave him the book, and I said, listen, you're in this chapter. I just want you to read that one chapter. I don't care about the rest of the book. And that night he texted me, and he said, I'm in tears, because reading that chapter reminded me of who I used to be and who I might yet become again. Next thing I know, he texts me, I'm in a rehab down in Florida, and I've gotten clean, and now I'm working at a sober home helping other people. So I just sent him a note today. So he's been clean now. So it's a wonderful story about how, as bad off as he was, people can still make progress and rebound and move ahead in their lives. And I've seen it happen, Darren, so many times.
Does it just take that person willing to listen, to help? I mean, what does it take for it to stick with some of these young people?
I think it's very rarely like a one shot, you go to rehab or go to an NA meeting and you're clean for good. Sometimes that happens, but it's often time and time again. That we talk about relapse as part of recovery. I heard from someone just today, their son had a year being clean, now he's back in a rehab. And I said, listen, I feel badly this has happened, but you can't give up on this person. I know you won't give up on this person. And so many times if we stick with people people, and just that stable presence in their lives that's there, that kind of unconditional love, that unconditional relationship, that can often make the difference.
Yeah, because sometimes it does take several tries, as you were just talking about. I mean, you know, we've worked on Stories Together, series about homeless youth in Vermont, and sometimes it is not 1, 2, sometimes it's 3 or more times. But at one point, though, does it ever become enabling, or is this just part of the process to get them there?
We're always balancing. That's such a good question. We're always balancing what's helping and what's enabling, you know? And I think we try and find that balance at Spectrum. We want to take kids who are out there, especially this time of year, right? Where it's 1 degree out, you know? We don't want people to freeze to death out there, but we're also asking them to meet certain requirements. So that's what I like about the model at Spectrum. You could start at our warming shelter, which is on the corner of King Street in South Winooski. You do well there, you're looking for work, then you move to our residence on Pearl Street. You do well there, then you move to our apartments on Pearl Street. You know what I'm saying? Now we're asking you about job and school, starting a bank account, how you learn to drive a car. So I have seen tremendous success when you're helping people, but you're not enabling them, and you're giving them the tools and the support. We have a young woman who 8 years ago was living in our shelter. She then left us, went to college, got a degree, now is getting a master's degree and is interning with us. I remember getting the phone call when she was living in a car in the winter, and now she's an intern getting her master's degree. And that was a lot of ups and downs, and her really trying and us hanging in there with her. And I think that's when you see really miraculous things happen.
You know, you talk about a lot of these things, not only in the book, which again is called,
yes,
but also on stage for programs like The Moth. And in one story, the church in particular, it really struck me. It was very moving to listen to. A story that talked about a child who gave you a duffel bag. Here's a snippet.
Yeah. So this little girl comes walking up to the front, dragging this black duffel bag behind her. And she stands in front of me and she looks up and says, "My brother died this year, and my family would like to give this to you to give to a boy at Spectrum." So I leaned over and I unzipped the bag, and it had a lot of the same stuff that had been in the box. It had soap and toothpaste and towels. And it had a Bible, a white leather-bound Bible, and it had a card. So I took the card out of the bag, and somebody had written in ink on the front of the card, "To a young man at Spectrum." So I took the card out, and pre-printed on the front, it said, "Always remember, God is watching over you." And it had a picture of her brother pasted to the inside of the card. Now, this girl's like 9 years old. I'm expecting to see a little boy, but it's a young man. It's a young guy. It looks like somebody we would work with at Spectrum. And it's got the ages of his birth and his death, and he's 21 years old. And he's handsome, he looks happy, he's smiling in the picture. So I leaned over to the adult who was next to me, and I whispered to him, "How did her brother die?" And he whispers back, "Heroin overdose." When I heard that, man, it was like the words ripped right through me, you know? And it was like something shifted deep inside of me in an instant.
Mark, Redmond, what shifted? Walk us through what happened there.
What shifted is I'm at this church. I'm kind of judging these people. Somebody had told me, "Oh, that's the Hollywood church. You know, it's all a big show." And you know, to me, if you're going to be spiritual or religious, it's about helping the poor and feeding the hungry, sheltering the homeless. And I'm going in there thinking, this is not really that kind of church. And what shifted was seeing that picture, hearing that their brother died of a drug overdose. I suddenly thought, you know, this may not be the kind of church where I would want to go, but there are a lot of really good people in this church, and some of them are in terrible pain. Some of them are suffering tremendously emotionally, like this little girl, like her mother, like this family. And if this church, Darren, is where they want to go for healing and for hope and some sense of peace in their life, I have no right to judge that at all. So that's what shifted.
You are a religious guy. You do go to church yourself. Do you use religion as part of how, one of the tools in the toolbox at Spectrum, or is that just your personal life and sort of what drives you to do what you do?
It does drive me to do what I do, but Spectrum itself is a non-sectarian, it's not connected to any church or religion. So I'm very careful not to bring that up, with young people. I did have a young person who I make lunch there once a month or dinner, and he kept talking about his church, his church, his church. So I finally said, oh, what church do you belong to? He said, oh, I'm becoming a Catholic at the UVM Catholic Center this Easter. Would you like to go? So I went to the church service with his mother, which was nice too. So in that case, I brought it up. But I really try and keep a distance. I shouldn't impose those religious beliefs, on other staff or on other people. But on a personal level, yes, the gospel and what it really means to me, that's what drives me to do the work that I do.
I want to get to the problem of homelessness and youth in particular. We'll talk about that right after this. And welcome back, everyone. We are talking with Mark Redmond at Spectrum this morning. When you're not presenting on stage and when you're not writing about these issues, you are running Spectrum Youth and Family Services. For those who don't know what this organization does, what do you do?
Spectrum's been around since 1970. A lot of our work is with homeless youth. Opened up 10 more beds up in St. Albans for youth who are homeless up there. We have a drop-in center in St. Albans and in Burlington, open 7 days a week. Young people can come in and get a hot lunch or a hot dinner, change of clothes, do their laundry, take a shower. And then eventually we'll say, hey, where are you staying tonight? Oh, you're living in the back seat of a car? Well, we have a bed upstairs. Do you want to live with us? When was the last time you saw a doctor or a nurse? Community Health Center has a clinic right in our building. You can get medical care. Do you want to look for a job? We have 4 job developers on staff who will help you look for work. So that's how mental health. We have 14 mental health counselors on staff for young people who are depressed, anxiety, eating disorders, substance abuse disorders. So I think that's why people say, where'd you get the name Spectrum? It's that spectrum of services. Yes, it is housing. Yes, it's getting out of the cold and getting out of the snow. But it's so much more than that. It's job development, it's mental health, it's learning how to drive a car, it's education. We have all of those things.
As you mentioned, Spectrum has really expanded as the need has expanded in Vermont. What are you seeing for numbers right now in youth homelessness?
I mean, I think it's always been high. The number of youth are what we call our nightly shelter. Used to be just our winter shelter, 6 during the November to March. But we found as time went by, there were still homeless youth in April, May, and June. So we kept those 10 beds open all year round. The drop-in center, which used to be just Monday to Friday, that's every single day of the week, which is good. St. Albans is very interesting. We started working with youth in foster care up there. And those 2 workers said to me, Spectrum needs to be up in this city. There are homeless youth in St. Albans. So Peter Welch helped us, and then we had a major gift from a philanthropist, $200,000, to open up a drop-in center. At 6 p.m. though, Darren, when it closes, we're handing out sleeping bags. So my staff are like, Mark, we need to open up a residence. Somebody donated $1 million, and then the legislature, Representative Teresa Woods especially, appropriated the money. So now we have 10 beds. So it's no more sleeping bags at 6 p.m. It's walk 2 blocks up. You have a nice warm bed and a great place to stay. So we get calls from the city of Barrie, Brattleboro, St. John. I think what we do exists in many other communities. A lot of things, and most of our youth are 18, 19, 20, and so many services end at 18 in the mental health system, in the DCF system. A lot of those systems end, so a lot of rugs are pulled out, and that's really where we come in.
Are the needs changing? Are you seeing different needs as, you said, what, 23 years?
23 years there, yes.
So has the need changed among this population?
I would say, and this is true in America, the mental health needs of young people, teenage young adults, have definitely increased. There is no doubt. I had 4 mental health counselors on staff maybe 5 years ago. The waiting list grew to like 80 people. Wow. So if we got a call from a pediatrician or a parent or a homeless youth for some kind of mental health disorder, well, there are 80 people ahead of you, we'll call you in a few months. So we just kept adding counselors, and then we ran out of space. Somebody donated money. We bought a building for them. So now we have 14 counselors, and the University of Vermont graduate program in mental health counseling. They get their master's degree. They have to do hours. They're now within Spectrum. They're literally housed within Spectrum. So we have those 6 grad students, too. So we've been able to cut that waiting list down from 80 to about, I don't know, 8 or 9.
Wow.
We can get young people. So I would say that is one way that we've seen a lot of changes. The mental health needs have gone up, and we've been able to respond to that.
So you're responding, but what are the biggest challenges you're still facing in addressing homeless youth?
Permanent housing. So years ago, a young person would come at Spectrum, stay for a year and a half, start at the nightly shelter, do well, move to the Pearl Street residence, stay in our apartments, get a Section 8 voucher, and go get an apartment. Darren, that model, it just has broken down. There just aren't the studio apartments, even if they have the Section 8 voucher. So we're thinking maybe we should do that next. Maybe we ourselves should create, all they need is a studio apartment. That's, I don't know what you have when you get out of college. That's all I had,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's all they need, you know. So we're thinking, we haven't made that decision yet, but that has changed also. A couple of years ago, they'd get the voucher and go and get an apartment somewhere within a 6-mile radius of Burlington. That has changed.
Again, your book is called, you have another book as well, that's The Goodness Within. You've written for major newspapers as well. We showed some of your stage presentations. What do you hope people take away from either your writings or your presentations?
I think what I hope people take away is that young people have tremendous potential, even if they have faced tremendous odds. You know, a lot of our kids come from families where their parents are homeless themselves, or maybe their parents are in prison or missing. They haven't had the kind, I don't know what kind of family you grew up in, but I grew up in a stable family, parents who worked, who were good role models. So many of our youth just didn't have that advantage. But they still have youth on their side, and it's never too late. You know, no matter how far gone they are, or homeless, or whatever their difficulties are, it's never too late to give them this. A young man came up to me on a drop-in center yesterday. He's been with us for years. Mark, I got an apartment. I'm moving into an apartment near the airport, you know? We had been helping this young man for quite a while, and yet he was able to take advantage of all the supports we offered to him. Now he's got his own place, and he's so happy.
I think that a lot of folks can be inspired by the stories that are in your book and from your presentation. Mark Redmond, thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.